Hi, Carol. Thank you for joining me.
You're welcome.
Our recording has started, and this is Carol Coristine. My name is Shay. I'm here with a program I like to call Learning with Healers. Carol is someone who I respect very deeply and admire, and she is a Reiki teacher, a Reiki Master. So just to go over what she does off her website and why I am very interested in learning more from her. So she is a Reiki Master, a Reiki teacher in Traditional Usui Reiki. She's a Crystal Reiki Master, a certified crystal healer, a hypnotherapist, a Dowsing Specialist as well. She's been doing this again for over 20 years, and she has some of the most beautiful reviews on her website. I've had the honor to meet her a couple of times, and I can attest that these testimonials are exactly how I felt. I just want to read a few out off this printout. So this is from Robert S. in UK, who I've never met, but said, there are many people in life who you welcome to the depths of your very soul, and Carol is one of them. The warmth, beauty, and magic of her spirit engulfs your very being to regenerate all that needs to be replenished. Know her is to love her is to share her gift, beautiful and passionate soul. So there's so many other beautiful ones here. Carol's a warm and intuitive person who has left me feeling more balanced, refreshed, and positive. And it goes on and on and on. Her website is springbankenergyhealing.org, is it?
No, springbankenergyhealing.com.
Springbankenergyhealing.com. So we'd like to start with Reiki. And how you doing today?
I'm good, thank you.
So yeah. So tell me about Reiki and how you got into this, and what started your journey, and then we'd dive deeper into your practice, and just a learning experience for myself and whoever else happens to watch. Thank you.
Well, everything kind of came over the years. Reiki wasn't the first thing that I dug into, but it ended up being the most important part of what I do now. It started out in the late 1990s, actually mid 1990s, and I was just fascinated by crystals. I loved them, and I started picking them up and learning about them, and I loved them so much, but I knew they were important, but I didn't know why then. It didn't matter. I didn't need to know why, but they were important. And then
where'd you first come across the crystal, if you don't mind me asking?
Pardon?
Where'd you first find your first crystal? How old were you?
I can actually show it to you too. Nice. Years and years ago, it was in the mid 1990s, and we used to go to breakfast along Kingston Road, right near where it joins the 401 in Scarborough. And there was this great little place, diner, and I can't remember, Ted's Diner, called Ted's Diner. And right across the street was a little plaza with a rock shop in it. And they had all kinds of raw rocks. And I thought, this is interesting. And I picked up my first crystal there, and I'm going to bring it over to the screen and show you because it's amazing. Hold on.
Thank you. It's awesome. This is Carol's lair, if you will. It's a wonderful space, and I've had the honor to visit, but the description's on our website as well, but she keeps the space very well.
So this is my first crystal, was a honking big rose quartz, and it was so pretty, and I was drawn to it. I didn't know anything about it, but it was so pretty, and I thought, I have to take this home, so I did. So I've had it for about 30 years now, about 30 years. So that was my first crystal. Anyway, and then I was taking all kinds of classes. I loved learning about the tarot, and I was learning about just all different kinds of energy workshops. And at one of them, I met this really fascinating woman who told me about Reiki. And she was a nurse, and she offered to give me Reiki, to teach it to me. And I, of course, jumped at the chance. And that was when it started. And that would have been in about 2001 or 2002, somewhere back there. And then, so I got my first 2 levels from her, but in the meantime, I was taking dowsing classes. Like I found this amazing teacher for pendulums, but the kind of pendulums I work with they're based on geometric shapes, and I can show you one. This is what they're like. Can you see that?
Yeah,
Can you
for
see
sure.
that here?
And just for people who may not be familiar, I guess we could go over a definition of Reiki or dowsing just
Okay.
for the uninitiated.
Okay, so but let me, I'll just finish telling
Sure.
you how
Yeah.
it came to be. So I started taking all these courses and working with these kinds of pendulums, and just absolutely loved it. And during the course of taking those courses, I met who would become my Reiki master. So in 2009, I became a Reiki master from this person. So I had been fascinated by everything I've been learning, the crystals and the pendulums and then the Reiki. So they all came sort of together, little bits here over time. Nothing came really first, if that makes sense to you. So Reiki, to tell you what Reiki is energy that's channeled. It's universal energy that is channeled. And how you begin to be able to give Reiki is that you're attuned to Reiki by a Reiki master. There's a little, I don't want to call it a ritual, it's not that at all, but it's a process to go through where you're attuned to the Reiki symbol by a Reiki master who is qualified to do that for you. And then you can start to let the Reiki flow. The Reiki flows in through your crown, down your arms, and out your hands, and that's where the Reiki flows from. So that is Reiki. And Reiki is wonderful for so many things. It's wonderful for stress and anxiety. It really helps people heal. Reiki won't heal. Reiki does not heal, but it helps you heal because it helps your energy system operate at its full potential so that you are then totally equipped to fight anything that you're fighting, you know, any type of disease or whatever. It's great for people undergoing chemotherapy. It helps relieve the symptoms. Just so many things. Dowsing is an art. And you can go to any crystal store and buy crystal pendulums, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about these. Can you see this clearly on your screen?
It's a bit low. If you could raise it a bit closer, like to the level of your face. Yeah, perfect.
Can you see that now?
Yeah.
So these pendulums operate on frequencies. Like each one of these little rings, it tunes into a different frequency. So when I get the pendulum going and it starts to read the atmosphere around me, and you can ask it questions, although I don't generally use it for divining. I generally use it for healing and reading the energy and healing with energy. So that's amazing. So I use that a lot in my practice too. And then the crystals, of course, they just speak for themselves. You know, crystals they're amazing. They can work with the human body so well.
Was there a reason you picked the crystal that you had actually picked? Were you drawn to that because of
that first one? You mean the first one I showed you? Because
Yeah.
it was so pretty.
It was
pretty. It was pretty. Interestingly enough, rose quartz isn't a crystal I'm particularly drawn to now, but at the time it was just so pretty. And I don't feel much of an affinity for it now. So it's just there as I've got this as sort of an example of what my first crystal was, but I never use it. It's just pretty. It sits on a shelf and looks pretty.
Oh, that's awesome. And I guess I'd planned to read out a Reiki definition, but from Reiki.org, but you kind of covered that. But yeah, so in terms of, I guess, diving in terms of the effects for so I did want to read a few more of your awesome reviews, but also just wanted to figure out in terms of people you've worked with your healing modalities, what, if you could give me a few examples or of their experiences or what you perceive of their experience, what they've told you, how their say energy or their moods or their physical or mental state of being has changed after coming in for a Reiki session or after learning it. So if you could talk to maybe a few examples or a typical kind of case just to illustrate it. And also, if possible, just, I guess, 20 years you would have spoken to and met with a lot of people. So I guess the scope or the number of people or how many or how.
Okay, I could tell you, I did prepare a list.
A lot of questions there, sorry.
That's okay. I've been in business. I retired 7 years ago from a very, very stressful corporate job. And I'll give you this little piece of history because it totally explains why I'm doing what I'm doing now. Yeah. I was office manager, office administrator, those kinds of really type A, very organized, very brain always full, multitasking all the time. And I retired from that and left Toronto and came to Woodstock and just figured, I realized within about 6 months, I wasn't going to be able to retire. I mean, what was I going to do? I was going to be bored out of my mind. And literally, I'm sorry if this sounds hokey, but literally one night, whether it was a dream or whether I just suddenly had this realization or aha moment, but it was this, like there was a voice saying to me, you've got all 3 modalities. You've got your crystals, you're a crystal healer, you've got all your dowsing certificates, and you're a Reiki Master, and you've been a Reiki Master since 2009. And what's the matter with you? You know, get to work. So I did. I just decided, okay, I couldn't get a job. No one would hire me. And I guess that there was a reason for that. I'd always gotten jobs when I applied. So I figured the universe was just saying to me, you know, come on, stop doing old things. We need you to do this now. So yeah, so that's why I started doing this. So I've been in business now. I'm going into my 7th year because I opened my business about 6 months after we moved here. In that time, I have had approximately, I'd say about 130 clients come through my door. Wow. And not all of those are students. Like those are clients who have come for sessions. And I would say, no, I didn't figure out the stats on this one, but I would say a good number of those are here for stress and anxiety. And I'd say 95% of my practice is women. And I really prefer working on women. I get women. I mean, I'm a woman, right? Of course I'm a woman, but I get it. I get what women go through, and I've really been able to help a lot of them. So stress and anxiety, Reiki is amazing for that. It's just amazing for that. Yeah, it's amazing. I'd say that's been the bulk of my clients have come for that. And I've had some tremendous successes. I can give you an example of one person. This young woman, she had lost her, he wasn't even yet her husband, but they were engaged to be married, and he was killed in a car accident. And she found out she was pregnant, and, you know, her life was just, she couldn't leave it behind. She just, every day was just misery and sadness. And her mother finally shook her and said, you've got to, her mom knew I did Reiki. And she said to her, you've got to go try Reiki. And it turned her around. It absolutely turned her around. It took about maybe 5 or 6 sessions, but she's now a Reiki practitioner herself. She took the Reiki training, and it changed her life. You know, so it really.
She does self Reiki now, or I guess it inspired her so much, it changed her sort of outlook in life that she actually, does that happen a bit where people sort of go take a few classes and they're like, wow, this is amazing, and then they start to sort of learn to do it themselves?
I mean, I love doing the Reiki sessions because I really have felt that I've helped people, and that makes me feel really happy, but I really love teaching it. I love teaching.
Can tell. I wanted to go back. You said that you had a type A personality throughout, and typically we view it as one or the other, the corporate life or the kind of spiritual, the energetic healing life. And I suppose it has been like that for you to a degree, but it almost sounds like it was the type A personality in you that wanted to achieve in this holistic energetic field. So it sort of pushed you along your journey to so yeah, that's interesting to hear, because you always you don't necessarily associate the two together, like it's either you're a corporate person or you're sort of a energetic healer type person, you know. So it's great. That's
true, but don't forget, we all have to work to earn a living.
Absolutely.
And I earned a very nice living doing what I was doing, and I needed the money. You know, let's be frank. I was lucky to like aspects of the job I did, and I think I was pretty good at it, but I was really burnt out when I retired. I was really burnt out. But all along, I mean, I've always been extremely creative. I've done little theater, and I've played music. You know, I've written songs, and I've had a huge creative side to my personality too. So I was always
up somewhere. Sorry to interrupt. Do you have some of those songs or some of your artwork up there?
I don't do art, but I do music. I don't do it anymore. I don't do it anymore, but I do. I did a CD one point, and I'm kind of proud of it, but it was just, one of these vanity CDs, but I'm kind of proud of it.
No, that's awesome. Well, what kind of music, if you don't mind me? I didn't know this about you.
It's sort of urban folk. I call it urban folk. But the thing was, I was always, I worked from like 9 to 5, 10 to 6 or whatever, but the rest of the time I was totally creative. So during the working hours, I was very left-brained, but then the minute I left work, the right brain took way over. So I've always had I've been lucky. I think I've been quite balanced in both. But the nice thing about what I do now, mostly it's you have to use your left brain to organize yourself, to organize a practice, so you don't double book people too much. But this is largely right brain what I do now, and I'm much happier. I'm much happier.
And okay, we got lots more questions for you. So where are we going now? So in terms of, I like to read a review every now and then. So I really enjoyed them. And so yeah, you mentioned, and I wanted to ask you about I guess the demographics and how it's mostly women, and it's a lot of is that, and sort of go over whether that's generally the case with Reiki or typically with your practice. But I just wanted to read out a quick review there. So from one of the reviews says, I just want to thank you. Where is it? Yeah, just want to thank you for a great day. I so enjoyed your company and your heartfelt teaching of Reiki. Within the past 7 nights, my husband has had 4 decent nights sleep, 2 of them sleeping through the night, which he hasn't done in forever. As an avid skeptic, he's coming around to being a believer. Thank you for sharing your gift with the world. So do you hear that more? Typically the woman, or there is sort of a demographic background there, or like leaning in that sense, or and why do you think that is the case? Are women typically more in tune with the healing arts? Or
Yes, very much so.
Has that always been the case historically? I feel there's a lot of reference, but yeah, I'd just love to hear your perspective.
Well, there was a time when I really looked into this because I was so interested in ancient times, and I can't really be exact because I have the kind of brain that doesn't hold on to a lot of information. It takes little bits and then forgets all the data, right? But in ancient times, many of the societies in the world were matriarchal. And the women were the healers, the nest keepers, the fire keepers, and the men were out hunting, and but the women were the ones that kept the community going, and they kept the family going. And it's still that way today, really, except now men think they're superior. but really it's always, the women have always kept the coals, you know what I mean? Like they've kept the coal to the fire burning, and they haven't let the fire go out. So I think women are naturally much more open and in tune with these kinds of healing arts.
No, for sure. I've read a lot about ancient societies and how they were matriarchal, and that does tie in. And personally, just looking through the different Reiki healers and masters within Canada, or the teachers, when I was looking to do a course myself, it was predominantly women. And just within my own household, in terms of the family, the larger family, I know the first person I knew who did Reiki was my favorite aunt of all time, my mom's sister. She lives in India. I don't see her a lot, but I visit her, and she piqued my curiosity and made me realize how powerful it could be with things she did with her son and with the family. So yeah, definitely another reason to respect women more, and it's coming around, but yeah, I think a lot of the respect is women can work, but yeah, women can also typically, traditionally have that the divine feminine and the creative aspect has sort of helped society in many more ways than we can imagine. But yeah, in terms of, did you have more that you'd written down in some of the questions I'd asked, or anything?
Well, I basically wrote down statistics.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I like some left brain stuff too. I like to.
Okay, well, yeah, I do that too, obviously. So in the time, now I haven't been teaching the whole time. I'd say I've been teaching for about 5 years, but in that time I've had 70 students taking 127 courses. So a lot of them came, especially the Reiki, they'd come back so I had 61 up to today. I've had 61 Reiki 1 students, 32 Reiki level 2 students, 8 Reiki Masters with 2 more scheduled to join in, but I don't want to say I've got them yet because they're scheduled for in the next month or so. So that would be a total of 10 taking the Reiki Master level, which is a pretty high proportion, I think, when you think about the number of Reiki Masters out there. I've had 15 students taking my crystal class and 6 students taking the dowsing class, which surprises me because I think dowsing is the most incredible thing, but people they don't really know about it, don't know very much about it.
Yeah,
So,
we could get into those. I to be fair, I mean, I have heard a bit about them, but I don't know enough. I imagine it's more about getting in touch with your intuition or your higher self and sort of letting that energy channel through you, but witnessing it through or letting that affect the pendulum and be in tune with the pendulum and your higher self to get answers in terms of what the best thing to do is in any given situation. But that's my rough understanding. Is that like?
Yeah, I don't usually use the pendulums to ask them questions
Right.
about like, what should I do? Not that kind of divining, like, is it going to rain or should I go today? Not those kinds of things. I use them for health issues. So when I'm working on a client, but I always start my Reiki sessions with chakra balancing, which I do with the pendulum. So I use them in that way. So to just read the chakras, the energy, and just sort of tune them up if they're sluggish, give them a little kick and get them going again.
And you do that but wouldn't you naturally do that with your Reiki class, or I mean, with your Reiki session by just feeling the energy while you're passing it over the body?
I don't know. Just you see, I don't know if I'm a typical Reiki practitioner or not. I work with the tools I have and with the intuition I have. I don't find that Reiki, please, if there's any Reiki masters out there who are going to hear this, please don't get mad at me, but I don't feel that Reiki is really going to do much to help tune up your chakras. It's going to give it positive energy, but I think the pendulums themselves are so much more powerful. So for instance, if I'm standing over someone's chakras and I say, I want to clear and balance the chakra. So what I do is I put this pendulum right over the chakra and I say, please clean, clear, and balance the chakra. And it'll automatically start to go into a counterclockwise movement, which makes what it's doing is cleaning out any negative energies that are clinging to the chakra. And then when it's done, it will start to go in a clockwise direction. And what it's doing then is really putting in wonderful healing energy and getting the chakra back up to its absolute optimum level for functioning. Yeah. I can't do that with Reiki. That's why I use pendulums and Reiki together, because I find these are very strong. And then, of course, when I do a Reiki session, I go over that area again, but the chakras are already clear, so I don't need to worry about them. I'm worrying about everything else in the body. I'm worrying about the more tangible parts of the body that we can actually see and touch,
That's awesome. No, that was a good explanation that no one's really, I guess I had spoken to you a little bit about that, but yeah, it sounds like it's a precision tool, just,
oh yeah.
And Reiki is kind of an overarching thing. So yeah, it's a great way to think about it and sort of learn about it. That's awesome. And over the years, I guess I wanted to figure out how your belief systems have changed and say supported your healing arts, or how you've say come to these beliefs. I know you said you were drawn to crystals. So was that, say a lot of people come from rigid atheistic or rigid traditional religious kind of backgrounds that a lot of which, if you have certain worldviews, they would not say encourage an interest in these fields. So how were you able to sort of deal with, I guess, your environment, and was it supportive or conducive or not so much? And if you could talk to.
I came from a very sweet middle class family. I'm from Montreal. My parents were just sweet, gentle people. Very open-minded. My mother especially was very open-minded. they never tried to, yeah, yeah. They never really tried to steer me. The only time they were ever really disappointed in me was when I opted after grade 13 not to go to university, because I'd been accepted already into modern language and literature. But when it came right down to it, I didn't want to do it, and so I went to work in a bank, and, I could just see my father, actually my mother going, my brother for sure, he was really mad at me. But I kind of always knew all along, I had the instincts that told me if something didn't feel right, then don't do it. But I had so much support from my family with everything I did in my life. But I didn't really come to these things until much later. I'd say I was probably in my mid 30s when I started writing music and really working with those kinds of creative arts and being in a community theater and doing that and absolutely loving it. And that helped open me up to other things. So my family was always really supportive. When I started to get into the things I do now, my mom and dad have been gone for years, so they would have no idea what I do now. My children just think I'm a kook. They love me dearly. One of my sons think doing what I do is a hobby, and he said to me a while ago, he said, "It's great, Mom, that you can earn money doing your hobby." And I thought,
is it not? I mean, could it be reasonably called a hobby? I mean,
yeah.
It's a service. It's
Yeah,
helping the community.
We're still fringe. I'm still very much, what I do is still very much fringe, and
Right.
my children are not fringe. They're not fringe children. They're very much, corporate. At least my daughter is. My daughter's a law clerk. Just adore her, but she has no clue what I do. And I try and talk to her about it, and I could see her eyes glazing over. She just doesn't. But my grandchildren, I have a 15-year-old granddaughter, and she loves crystals. And she's, and so I think I've got a, but yeah, my children, they're very loving and everything, but they just, they don't get me.
But I guess that's okay because they still love you. But have you opened? I imagine just through your work, a lot of people who contact you would already be obviously interested in the field,
Yeah.
would have come across some experiences that moved them or spoke to them. But are there people who you've met over the years who were, dead set against the idea and then have sort of come around, or either through their personal experiences or through, I guess there are a number of studies out there that do support the benefits of Reiki. Either or, have you?
Well, it's hard to say, because when I was working in the corporate world, and I was doing all these things on the side, I was meeting different people when I was taking my classes, and meeting people that I'm much more in tune with, like much more comfortable with. And in the corporate world, the kind of people I would meet, you didn't really make friends of. They were just very people you were pleasant to. You'd work together, but I didn't make many friends from that group. So I never really shared what I did with them. So any people who I've introduced what I do to, except for my family, they've kind of grown with me over the years, and I've met people who are on sort of the same path I am. So we've sort of come across each other, and we have similar. So I haven't had to change anybody's mind. I've had the odd wife send her husband for Reiki, and the husband's an absolute skeptic, and it's happened several times. And even there's one person in particular I can think of, and he had to admit that Reiki helped him a lot. So, but I don't think
after he felt a difference, it was.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to be coming to learn Reiki anytime soon. But it did help. So yeah, that was kind of cool.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just curious if you had any kind of criticisms, or in terms of people say attacking you or saying that this is, say, the devil's work, that can come up.
No. Oh, I had one a long time ago. This is a family member. Yeah, I won't go into too much more detail about that, but anyway, he basically, I've studied Wicca because I'm very interested in the whole aspect of nature, and the idea of Wicca and being a nature-based religion. To me, it was so attractive, and it didn't stick particularly, but I'm very much in tune with nature, and I think everything around us has deity. I think the trees have deity. I think the rocks do. I think everything is alive and should be just so appreciated and respected. Well, this particular
That's
person.
awesome. I've had this conversation with my friends so many
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
The level of consciousness and everything, and
yeah,
and not everyone thinks like that.
and this one particular family member, who is rather closely related to my sweet partner, basically sent me an email saying, "Burn, witch, burn." I don't see much of him.
I'm sorry. I mean, I guess you can laugh about it now, but that's.
Yeah, I thought it was, I mean, he's nuts. Anyway, I've always thought he was nuts. Right. My partner and I have some interesting conversations about this person and his family, but we don't have much to do with them. So they're just, he's just.
Oh yeah,
No.
and I'm sure it's been sort of. I did have the chance to meet Brian, of course, and he's awesome, and I think you guys are obviously great together, and you've been on a similar path in different ways, but yeah, I guess that was the other change I think that you had mentioned in one of our earlier conversations, having a partner who you shared a lot of beliefs with, but who also had a commitment to, for lack of a better word, a spiritual path or a way to get closer to the divine, if you will. But but yeah, in terms of the divine, or I guess that's a natural segue, or I guess the idea of other people who think that everything has consciousness or has divinity in it. And if you could speak to that and say, how many people do you feel like that? And if when you were younger, if you felt a bit of an urge to try and say, shake other people and say, hey, no, everything is divine. No, we are all connected, or does that, or was that not so much of a concern? It was like, I know this, and this is the truth, and this is my life, and we can sort of move forward. Or
I can't honestly say I felt that way. I when I was little, I had a very rich imagination, and I played with dolls until I was about 11, until I was kind of informed by my friends that, get rid of the dolls. But I've always been a very solitary person. As much as I like people and I've got some wonderful friends, I've always been quite solitary, and I'm quite an introvert. And people don't think I am when I'm yakking to them, because I'm comfortable and I'm with people that I really feel comfortable with. So I really open up. But for the most part, I'm very, very much to myself and an introvert. So I've had a very rich imagination, like imaginary friends kind of thing. Not really, but I'm babbling. I think what I'm trying to say.
Speaking of spirits, or were these actual imaginary friends?
Oh no, not even. No, I just, I still talk to, I don't know if you probably, did you ever see Fraggle Rock?
No, I haven't.
Fraggle Rock was the most amazing show. It was created by Jim Henson, and it was on CBC, and it was about these little creatures that lived underground, and this was their high priestess, Moki. I have Moki sitting here by my computer, so you know what I mean? I talk to her. I really do. Anyway, but I didn't really become awake or aware until I was, I guess maybe kind of around the time when I was in the marriage with my kids, the husband that I had, the kid's father. And around the time I was in my mid-30s, it just wasn't working. And I didn't know why, but I was so deeply unhappy. And it was just, I was trying to fit myself into a way of living that just didn't suit me, a way of being. And then I think getting divorced, I was 39 when I got divorced, 39, 40. Everything changed for me then. It was like it wasn't like he was a mean man at all. He's a very, very nice man, but it was just, I was in the wrong place. I was with the wrong person. I was stuck inside this box, and I couldn't see a way out, but I didn't know it then. I just knew I was deeply unhappy. But when I left, everything opened up for me. All my creative things started to flow. And that was around the time where I totally opened up to everything. It was just like, there was a whole new world out there. All of a sudden, clouds weren't just weather, they were tassels. You know what I mean? Like just, so that was, I'd say in my late 30s, was when really, really started to open up. And then I took all these courses, every course I could find, sort of in that area. And I just kept opening up and growing.
And would you say the pain or the trauma of being in a relationship that wasn't working out, or being in a work environment, was that a huge driver in trying to find what would work? And is that a typical path for a lot of healers, where, you know, the idea of a dark night of the soul, you put
Yes,
through something
very
really
much
rough?
so. Very much so. When I got divorced, I had 3 kids and I had to leave. I was one that left because I didn't want to uproot them. I still saw them all the time, but it was awful. It was horrible. It was the worst moment. Yeah, I think everyone who's truly into healing has experienced some of those things. I as a Reiki master, I mean, we're very, very strict. The Reiki code of ethics is I'm not allowed to counsel people. But the thing is, the age I am and I've been through some horrible things. Some of my own doing, nothing hard, nothing terrible, but awful for me to live through. But I gained so much wisdom. And so sometimes I'll have a client come in and we deal with, the Reiki things, and they're telling me about how horrible some of these people that come, they have horrible lives. I mean, what they're going through. And I will tell them about similar things that I might have gone through. And I said, you have to understand, I've taken off my Reiki hat now. This has nothing to do with Reiki. You've come to my house and I'm talking to you as a friend, and I'm giving you what guidance I can based on what I've lived. And I have to make sure I keep it really, really separate, because I could get in serious trouble if I started including counseling with my Reiki sessions. You know what I mean? Like, I have to be so careful. I probably shouldn't even say that, but there was just one girl the other day. She's absolutely beautiful young woman. She's just beautiful. The sweetest soul. And she just seems to attract abusive men. And I said to her, why? And she says, I just like the bad boys. I can't help myself. She said, I meet lots of nice people, but I'm just not attracted. I just said, I just like the bad boys. I never liked bad boys.
Was there an energetic everyone likes?
I think she's working through something. She's working through something in her life. This is part of her life task. If the contract she made, if you believe in that, which I do.
Yeah, I do.
When she came into this world, I think this was what she signed on for. And it hurts me to see that, but I can't do anything about it. I try and share some of the things I went through with her to make her see there is a light at the end of the tunnel if she chooses to look for it. But yeah. I'm not sure what the question was anymore. I think we digressed.
No, hey, it's just good to talk, really. And in terms of, I guess, the life contract, that's an interesting thing that you brought up, and that's something I find that more you learn about, I guess, different religions, or about not so much religions, but say a New Age philosophy, if you will, or Reiki, energy healing, and things like you start to accept and realize certain, or believe in certain things. One of which would be something like a life contract. Like, you come down and pick the life you want to learn certain lessons. The way I understand, you pick your parents. There's some funny TikTok videos of these. They've collected a bunch of different parents who have basically spoken about what their kids have said, and how so many children across the world at the age of 2, 3, or 4 is like, "Mommy, I picked you. Daddy, I picked you from heaven."
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
and it's something that's fascinating, but it happens a lot. And I personally started believing in reincarnation only, even though I was born, like, my background's Indian. My parents didn't believe it, and I was very skeptical, like most people. I was sort of brought up fairly left-brained, and I started believing it when I saw these psychologists who had collected stories from children, again, in that age group of 2 to 4. And it took, funnily enough, as say a man born Indian, so to speak, where these beliefs are rife, it took American psychologists who had studied it in detail to finally convince the mind that, hey, this could be possible, and then start exploring it in different avenues. So I guess that's a central belief now for me, something I believe in strongly, based on Dolores Cannon and
Mhm.
Michael Newton, other, say, hypnotherapists. And
Yeah.
Dolores Cannon obviously is amazing. And I know
Yeah.
it's just, he had also done, of course, some work with her. So yeah, I guess if you could talk about your belief in reincarnation would be nice, and how you got into that, if in terms of picking your life contracts, and then also after that, at some point, I'd love to talk about the teaching, what you've learned from Dolores Cannon and that school of thought,
Okay.
and how you use it in your practice.
Okay.
Thanks, there's a
I
lot
don't
there.
I haven't studied with Dolores Cannon at all. I've read some of her books, but there's a lot of very interesting material out there on this. But how did I come? So when I was in my 40s, I don't want to go into too much detail about the situation, but because I don't want to reveal too much about myself, but but there was a situation I was dealing with, and it just, I was so sad and just so heartbroken about this. It was a person that I cared for very much, and he lived on the other side of the world, and I hardly ever saw him, but the connection was just absolutely incredible. And I went for past life regression therapy because I wanted to know why. I mean, I'm a pretty sensible person. I wanted to know why I was so sad and heartbroken. I mean, logically, I knew it was ridiculous, but I couldn't. And it turned out we'd had a past life together, and we'd been he'd been a doctor, and I'd been his wife, and I managed his dispensary. This was way back in medieval times, and he. I don't want to go into a whole bunch of detail, but basically, the castle that we were living in, we were just working with a count or whatever. We were working in his castle. He was the doctor for this person of nobility, and I was his wife. And the castle was attacked, and I saw him be killed. I saw him be killed, and then I was killed. But that was why the heartbreak, because number one, we'd been together in that capacity in a much more ancient time, but I'd seen him be killed, and so that was that terrible wound, that. So I was fine after that.
Wow. So just I guess being aware of the kind of connection you had helped.
Yeah, then
you
it
just
explained to
observing.
me, and I could deal with it better, and then it was okay. That's okay. I don't, I get it. That's okay. And it was fine after that.
And where did you do it, if you don't mind me asking?
Her name was Sheena Singh. She was in downtown Toronto in Harbourfront, in one of the apartments in Harbourfront. This was years ago. We're talking 30 years ago, maybe about 30 years ago. She was very, very good. And I found some other past lives too. There was one past life where I was in Venice, and I was a very artistic person. I was a painter, and I had students, but I was a horrible, horrible person. And one night, one of my students drowned me and pushed me in one of the canals, and I drowned. So that probably would explain my bitchy side.
How do you deal with? Do you like water? Do you like swimming? Does that? I know I've heard some stories about it.
I don't like water very much. I love to look at water, and I like swimming in swimming pools, but I don't like swimming when I can't see the bottom, and I don't like swimming where there's weeds in the water. I'm really, yeah. So yeah,
I mean, that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah. One of my girlfriends, as a matter of fact, this is years ago too, but she never liked to wear bracelets, and she would freak out. And it turned out that in a past life regression, she'd been shackled. And then that's why don't put any bracelets on me, no way. So that's why I really was drawn to past life regression, because it helped me a lot. And I've always been fascinated by it. So I do past life regression. I don't do a lot of it. I don't get much call for it, frankly, And in terms of hypnotism, just to touch on that lightly, I've taken my hypnotism courses and practiced as much as I could. But I found out after doing it, there were areas of hypnotism I didn't like doing, like helping people lose weight, helping people stop smoking. And the reason I didn't like it was because the success rate isn't great. Not my success rate, but overall the success rate isn't great, because people who want to quit smoking, they have to be so committed to it, and most aren't, And the same with, I dealt with one fairly large woman who wanted to go on a diet and lose weight, but she didn't want it badly enough. And so I spent all this time preparing sessions for her, and And it was so discouraging because you put all the work into it and then they don't do it. So I don't do that anymore. I just won't. I just do light hypnotherapy, like stress, helping people deal with stress.
Could Reiki help with those kind of situations? So just having the energy, or maybe sort of working with the blockages, maybe with dowsing to.
Yeah, I found that the areas that I do hypnotism now are areas that are very nicely aligned with Reiki. So I wouldn't combine Reiki and a hypnotism session, but the thing is, the Reiki energies are very much energies that would help that kind of situation that I'm dealing with the person in the hypnotism with. So they can come for like a hypnotherapy session, and then we can do Reiki on them in another session. So it's two nice modalities that work really well together. So that's pretty much the only kind of hypnotherapy I do these days. And I love past life regression, and I'll do that, but I don't get much call for it, frankly, and I'm a little surprised.
Where did you learn how to do the past life regression, or how did you learn?
I had my teacher. I took a course from her, but I've taken many workshops, some shamanic. There's this amazing shaman. Her name is Sandy Mack. She's based in the States. And she came up when I was taking all my dowsing classes. She came up and was staying with my dowsing teacher, and she did some of these amazing workshops in this kind of work. So that was where I say I'd learned the bulk of it through taking classes with her. And then more recently, I studied with Dr. Karen Wells. It was just online, but she's wonderful teacher. So with all that work I did, I do it. But, frankly, and I'll be very honest here, I don't feel qualified to be dealing with any really serious hypnotherapy clients. I just do light hypnotherapy. I think to do really serious hypnotherapy, you need to be a psychologist. You really need to have that base, that medical base behind you to do it. So I'm very careful about what I'll take on. Sometimes I won't accept a client if I think it's too deep for me. And then I'll recommend, there's someone else I know of now that I can recommend them to, or refer them to.
Come across, I guess it can be a risky.
Yeah, you're messing with someone's psyche, and I don't like to do that. So I'm really careful, even though I took all the classes I did and got all the training. I really like the past life regression because it can be kind of fun for both me and the person I'm doing it on. And helping people with stress, giving them some tools to deal with stress. I love doing that because, as I said, it really ties in so nicely with doing the Reiki work. But yeah, it's not something I really enjoy doing. So I'm doing it less. The hypnotherapy, I'm doing less and less of it. I don't like to monkey. I don't like to monkey around with things that I don't feel that I'm really equipped. So I'm just so careful. I'll refer them to someone else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I haven't really dealt with any hypnotherapists. This one used to do some guided meditations in Toronto, and it was some of the deepest meditations I had with this guy, because his voice would be like, feel yourself connecting, and you just taps into that subconscious, and you're like, oh my God, I am the rest of the world, and you can really kind of feel it. So I appreciate that aspect, but I was definitely a little concerned because, though he could help me through that path, if he wasn't in the right place, he could have potentially, if I allowed him.
This is the key, the therapist you're working with, if they've got their demons they haven't sorted out, then they can do so much damage. I know of someone who is a life coach, and she just doesn't recognize how damaged she herself is. And so I don't think she's in any position to be helping other people because she so badly needs help herself. So yeah, therapists have to be so careful that they've done their own work.
Yeah, there's reminds me, sorry, I just wanted to talk a little bit about a friend or a spiritual energy worker I knew. It's great. Friend of a friend introduced me, or a cousin introduced me to her friend. Has been done the quantum healing, the QHHT, sorry, the Dolores Cannon life regression training, and did it for a bunch of people, had it for himself. People were calling him every day. He offered, tons of advice and therapy to lots of people across the world. And the whole time he was a raging alcoholic. And it's like, how do you put the two together? And it was no one, most people didn't know. And the funny thing is it was nice talking to him. I didn't have any formal sessions, but he was just a source of information and wisdom and just a lot of love, constant love. And wasn't something that came up, but one of the first things he said to me when I was like, recommend some books or let's talk about things that I could get into, and it was like, hey, read this book. And the book was the Soul Psychology book. But in that book, one of the main things is how there's so many energy healers, or it starts off talking about light workers, energy healers, people who do really amazing services, but have not worked on themselves to a large degree. And I was wondering if you've come across that in terms of your community. And
yes, I have.
Is that sort of fairly common? And I guess your experience.
I think
darker
there's
side of it.
Yeah, I kind of stay outside that community. I mean, I have friends that I've met who, I talked about this life coach that I know. And I've known some other Reiki masters who, they haven't done their own work but I find the one thing that really is kind of the beacon that tells you if somebody's very arrogant doing this kind of work and someone's very arrogant, they have issues. It's the ones who are very humble and quiet, who they've done their work and they're, but the arrogant ones, this person I was talking about, she's so arrogant. I just, anyway, it can be
the
a
more
problem.
was the Socrates or Aristotle quote, it's like the more he knows about the world, or it was on his tomb, the more he realizes there is to know. So the more humble he gets, the more knowledge he gets. So it's kind of the premise. But
so a few people I've met and worked with, they're very full of their own arrogance, I guess you could say, and their own importance. And those are the people that find someone else, Yeah.
Another point is, I guess the work is never quite done. So, I mean, we're all human, and, the healers, even though they do these amazing services, they still go through regular day-to-day set of problems. And I guess sometimes we tend to sort of put them on a pedestal. I know I'm guilty of that. It's like, wow, they can just do all this, and and it just, so it's good to, I guess part of the reason that I'd wanted to talk to different people is, they can do what we consider magic on a more regular basis and more easily than most of the world, but would they still have to, pay their bills or have the odd fight with a family member or whatever. So that's good. So you are human. You're not like part alien, because I know we discussed this.
Well, I don't know about the not being part alien part, but I'm definitely.
You're all part alien. It's possible.
I'm somewhat imperfect, but I'm very aware of my areas where I am imperfect, and I've done a lot of work, and I'm not perfect, I still have days where I'm absolutely vile, and poor Brian just, but for the most part, I'm always really aware of my failings, I really am. So.
What are the biggest tools that you've used or that you would recommend in terms of, chanting, meditation, yoga, tai chi, that kind of thing? Journaling is a huge one, I think, or just finding the right tribe or community. So in terms of all the number of different, say, modalities, just things that pop into your head for your life and for people around you and other healers, what do you think? What do you recommend?
Well, meditation has never, I love guided meditations. But meditation itself has never been something that I've really been very good at. I do have a very active brain, monkey brain. But I find so much of, like, when I'm doing a Reiki session, it's a very meditative thing, just doing the Reiki session. So there's so many things I do in my day that are very meditative. I mean, I love to sit down and read a fantasy book, just take me totally out of the world I live in. And I find that that's a huge tool for me, because it just helps me disengage from my own life and what I do during the day. Music is incredibly important to me. Music is huge.
Like binaural beats, or in terms of changing your frequency? Is it just music that resonates with you and feels good inside?
The binaural beats pretty cool stuff. I just like music that makes me feel calm. Like it just sort of just resonates so much with me, and it just takes you to a lovely place. I love pop music too, and when I'm in the right mood for it. I have a playlist on my YouTube playlist. Sometimes when I'm working away at something, I'll put on all my favorite songs. But for the most part, I just like really gentle music, you know. Meditation, not so much. I did Tai Chi for years.
Oh, that's awesome.
I don't do it, so I'm trying to learn Qigong now. I have a person I go to for Chinese medicine. He's quite amazing. And his name is David Lloyd, by the way. He has Crane Medicine. He's amazing, Chinese practitioner. But he has his own Qigong school, and he's given me some really good pointers and some videos to watch and stuff. So I'm trying to get into that because I think that's a good tool, especially when you get older. I'm not very flexible anymore. I never was athletic anyway, but Qigong is a very gentle way of keeping your body moving and getting the energy flowing. So that's my goal for this year, is to really try and develop a practice doing that. I have an adorable dog, and I go for dog walks all the time. I love my dog.
Nature, I guess, is another big way to
Oh yeah,
reconnect. And I think
yeah. I
you
love being
mentioned
out in
that.
nature. Yeah. Yeah, and just being quiet, like just being able to disengage from everything and come down to my little den and just do whatever but yeah, but
I love your den. I'd love to talk about that, how you created the space.
yeah.
And then you've
Oh,
got
cool. Yeah.
sage, and you've got the crystals, lights,
Yeah.
powerful, loving statements, and
Yeah.
positive intentions in terms of books, words, and different objects. But yeah, I guess that's how you sort of create the space, and you sort of work with your clients there too, or you.
Yeah. The interesting thing is, like, ever since I've been on this journey, and I'll say my journey really began when I was in my 40s, when I unfortunately left the marriage I was in. And but it was a time of incredible growth for me. And I've always been the kind of person, if I'm very attracted to a piece of art, I'm really drawn to it. I'll get it and I'll buy it. And so everything down here that you've seen, I've accumulated some of the stuff over the years. But when I find when I really am drawn to something and I really, really love it and I get it, I never stop loving it. For instance, my dishes my dishes, how mundane can you get? I've had the dishes I have. I love them. I've had them since I started collecting them when I was in my 20s, when I was 20. And I'm way older than that now. And I still adore those dishes. When I really love something, yeah. So that's why everything.
So you're saying you're a spiritual hoarder or just a hoarder?
No, I'm a very selective hoarder.
Oh, that's
Selective hoarder. Sure. But yeah, but I'll give things away if they no longer really resonate with me. But everything I have surrounding me, everything has a story, everything has a little history to it, and that's why it's so amazing down here, because there's a richness, richness there. Okay.
But yeah, also apart from that, so out of those, I guess just to focus and say what's helped you most in your life in terms of modalities would be music, nature, having a creative outlet when you were singing. That seemed to be a big part of your growth. And yeah, I've been getting into breath work and other things recently. But yeah, Qigong, just everyone I've met who does either Tai Chi or Qigong just seems to be on a slightly different level for me. So it's
very calming.
Yeah, and I was trying it actually just 2 or 3 days ago. A video popped up on YouTube. It's just it's fun to do, and you start to feel it, and definitely something I want to do more too. So hopefully, when we
the challenge is developing a daily routine where you do it every day. That's always a challenge for me.
No, me too. So far this year, baby steps, but yeah, the more I talk to you and your ilk and others in the tribe, the more I'd be inspired to continue to build on the practices that I currently have. But yeah, what else are we going with? We want to also know books and other, say, sources of inspiration that you had, some movies or say artists or something like that spoke to you and say helped move or shape you over the years, and as many or as few as you want to mention. The more the better.
Well, it's more books for me. My teachers, the teachers I've had have been totally inspirational. Especially my dowsing teacher. She's amazing. She's just a Polish lady. She's either Hungarian or Polish, isn't that often I get, but she's from Europe, and she trained with a very amazing man, and
Which
she inspires. Pardon?
Who is her?
Her name is Alicia Araton. Her company is Intuitive Dowsing, and she's absolutely amazing. She's a wonderful, wonderful teacher. She inspired me, really, really inspired me to really understand energy. Like, she knows so much about energy, and she really opened my eyes to a lot of things. So yeah, she was very inspirational. Oh my gosh, there's just so many little bits here and there that have inspired me. But I did some of my books that have been, I've got them right here beside me so I could show you my books, because these are the things that have really been pivotal.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
So crystals. We'll talk about crystals first, because I have more books on crystals. So there are a couple of crystal people that totally inspired me. I never met them. They were in the Southwest US, California or Arizona. And one of them is no longer with us. One of them still is. But the one person, Jane Ann Dow, this book is really difficult to find. Can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Jane Ann Dow.
Crystal journey. I know it's the way it shows up in the camera. Let's say travel something through the shaman.
Travel guide for the new shaman.
Cool.
She just amazing. And another woman is Katrina Raphael. I've got a few books by her. And the reason why these two people are so inspiring for me is because they worked with crystals. They really worked with crystals and crystal healing. So these were like my Bibles.
What's the picture on the light? Just, are they crystals? Looks like kind of a UFO to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's actually a big giant quartz crystal with some sort of inclusion in it. It's hard. I'm sorry, there's a glare.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
And this one is also
exactly why I wanted to see like
crystal.
your favorite books.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's Katrina Raphael. This is my current one. This woman, she's in Arizona. She runs her own Arizona crystal mining company, quartz mining. Her name's Jen John. I love this book because she talks about learning to understand the crystal people and how to bond with your crystals. She's amazing. So these three people have been just so amazing. So that's crystals.
So by crystal people, so in terms of their consciousness, it's a very specific frequency. How would you say explain that or discuss that to the
get back to the point where everything in this world has consciousness.
Right.
Crystals have consciousness of their own. The rock kingdom has consciousness, but it's a much lower frequency. Or, I mean, you know, if this sounds so weird, but rocks and crystals do have some sort of life to them, but it's on a much different level than, it's like almost in a different dimensions, maybe. But they have deity, they have consciousness of a sort, and that's why they work so well in healing.
Actually read a cool
but there's not any people.
American...
They're not walking around with little arms and feet and little hats or anything.
Right. It's just, I guess it's tough to quantify the kind of consciousness that a crystal or a rock would have. And there was, there was an interesting Scientific American article that I sent to some friends that kind of spoke to their worldviews and their ways of understanding. And some of them said that it sort of helped them understand how how inanimate or seemingly inanimate objects can have different levels of consciousness. But one thing I was interested in was your take on, say, the difference between the consciousness of a crystal and, say, a rock. And if my understanding, say, that a crystal would be a more streamlined or a concentrated frequency in a way. But so I guess what I'm struggling with a little bit is in terms of the different frequencies, I'd imagine humans in a crass way would vibrate higher than stones. But where do crystals come in this hierarchy of, say, stones, plants, more complex beings than humans, and maybe angel spirits?
I can't really answer that. I don't
it's
really
not
know.
on a hierarchy, right? It's
no.
not.
The only thing I can tell you about crystals is And the reason why they work so well in healing is that crystals is like crystals are molecularly perfect. Anything with not rocks so much, because rocks are usually a mixture of different minerals.
Right.
But crystals, like a quartz crystal, it's geometrically perfect. And from the smallest molecule out to its outer form, as within, so it grows. So it's based on the hexagonal shape. So it's molecularly perfect and geometrically perfect. And so its vibration is absolutely even. And when you put something like that on within the human aura, we're made up of so many different systems in our body, and they're all often not working together very well. And what happens is the crystal, because of its perfect geometric harmony, you can put it in the aura of the person, and it helps bring the person back into balance. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it actually does. Thank you. That's a good explanation. Not trying to get a free class.
No. But
I always am. Always want to learn more. But I guess the follow-up question to that would be, could there be a risk of putting certain crystals on us and then having, we'd be in line with the crystal, but would that automatically mean we'd be in line? So then maybe I'd have an overactive chakra, or then, have a lot of energy in one part of my body that could. So is there a danger to working with crystals that you've come across, or a potential danger, or
No, not really.
Right?
The only crystal you have to be careful, like some can be like radioactive. There's a crystal, or it's actually it's a crystal called galena, and it's high in lead. You have to be careful working with some things, right? But I think the crystal kingdom is a very simple kingdom. I mean, it's basically, it's rock. It's, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have a personality. There's no such thing as a crystal who's having a temper tantrum. So yeah,
it's that consistency.
Certain crystals are good for certain things. Like obsidian is amazing for pulling out toxicity from the body. So before you work with crystals, you really have to learn. You have to learn about them. You can't just, put crystals on a body willy-nilly and think, oh, I'm doing this. No, you're not. You're just being an idiot.
So it's about the awareness of what it does, but also, I guess, channeling your intention through it. So you need both to sort of really get results or make it effective.
Yeah. Like if I'm doing crystal healing on someone, I know which crystals are good for which areas,
Right.
If I'm doing chakras clearing. And you always have an intent as a healer. You always have an intention when you put something on someone. You want to say you've made some sort of intuitive agreement with the crystal that you're going to work together to do this, but it's all very much energy, just communicating energetically. It's hard to put it into words, really.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess it's I'm trying to put into words an art and a healing modality that's based more on feeling the energy and sort of channeling it through intuition. And that is a challenge, but to me that feels like it's an important thing to do, because a lot of the world is fairly left-brained, and there is still, I'd say, a majority that would not be open to ideas that I now fully accept. And
I find too, even with Reiki, if the person you're working on isn't open, you're wasting your time. Because a person can just close down their energy system if they don't want to even be in the same room. You just walk away. You're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. I should actually tell you I'm kind of digressing, but there's one person I was thinking of that I wasn't able to help with Reiki, and I'll give you this example of this person. I might have talked to when you were having your training. I might have mentioned her to you. There was a young school teacher in this area last year when COVID was people were still really freaking about it. And she was so anxious about the whole thing that a member of her family suggested she come for a Reiki treatment. And so she did.
All right.
Remember me telling you about this one?
Yeah.
And she met me at the front door. I met her at the front door, and she had her mask on. And I have a rule, and I'm sorry if anyone hears this and they're against it. I don't care. This is my house, my rules. I don't wear masks in my house. This is my home. my husband's here, my dog's here. So you want me to wear a mask in my home? What's the point? You're walking through my germs, right? Every time you move around in my house, you're walking through my germs. So anyway, she wore her mask at the door, and I said, you don't need your mask in here. And she said, oh, if you're not going to wear a mask, I can't stay. And I said, I'm weighing, do I throw her out? Or no, that's the mean Carol. Mean Carol is here today. The healer Carol's here. So I said, okay, I'll wear my mask if it'll make you feel better. So I put my mask on, and she walks, and you have to, as you know, you have to come downstairs. You walk in the main level, and we go down to the basement for my room. And she's putting sanitizer in her hands as she's walking through my house. My house is pretty clean. I mean, I'm pretty fastidious, right? And I'm trying not to be insulted, but I am insulted. Again, Carol the person's getting in the way of Carol the healer, but I can't help it. Anyway, she comes downstairs. I get her on the massage table, and she's lying as stiff as a board. I couldn't touch her. I wasn't allowed to touch her, so I was having to do everything in the air over her. And Reiki works really well in the air, but I'm a toucher. I like to have my hands on the person. And I didn't help her at all. It was a wasted session. I mean, she was just terrified. She was just terrified. She was as stiff as a board. That was not one of my successes.
No, I guess.
And if she ever came,
those have been rarer though, because most people would be open to the idea.
It's rare. I haven't had many. She's the only one I've had like that. I have had the odd person come who really needed Reiki, and the thing is with Reiki, as you know, the first session is just sort of like, let's get started. And some people really need a few sessions, and I've had the odd person, maybe one or two, who they wanted instant fix, and I couldn't give them instant fix. If they'd waited for 2 or 3 sessions, they would have felt way better. But so you get those people too who just want like that. It doesn't work that way.
We're used to that's a pill culture, right? So you pop a pill and you're fixed.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. And let's see. Thanks, Carol. This has been fun. I feel like there's still more stuff I'd like to cover, but yeah, this gives, I think, a nice idea and a nice sort of overview of how you got there, how many people you worked with, how it helps. Of course, we haven't gotten into the modality too much, but again, like you said, it's a tough thing to talk about. It's something that's more experiential. It's something that more you sort of feel, or in your heart you sort of work with more. But yeah, in terms of my other random questions for you, and about Reiki and energy healing. About the state of the world today, I guess, just a broad, there's a few more, but just in terms of how Reiki could be used and how it's grown in the time that you've started working with this modality. So how much more acceptance there is, say, now compared to 5, 10, or 20?
There's a lot more. Reiki now is considered a valid modality by a few insurance companies. I'd like to say a lot of insurance companies, and they will accept Reiki. They will accept claims for Reiki. Not all of them, but some of them. That's a statement right there. I mean, talk about a testament to the value of Reiki.
I've worked in insurance, and they're not forking out money unless they've made sure there's a lot of benefit, or they've done a lot of cost benefit.
The trick to that is you have to be accredited, like you have to be an accredited member of the Canadian Reiki Association. And to be that, you have to pass muster. There's not an exam or anything, but you've got to have so many forms, clients that you've had who will testify to the fact that, this person, so not anyone can, you have to go to the right people to get that acceptability. Reiki's amazing. My goal is, because I can't, I'm getting to be older now, and I don't know how many more years I'm going to be able to do this, but really my goal is to get Reiki out there to as many people as I can, to teach as many students as I can, and just do my part to spread the word, I guess you could say. I don't feel that way about the dowsing and the crystals. To me, they're just tools I love and I use, but Reiki, I feel it's almost like I've got a mission, that I'm expected to do this. It's like the same voice, whatever said, open your practice. This is what we want you to do here. This is why we've put you here, in a fairly dark place, to bring some light to this place. But I think the same voice kind of just not too long ago basically said, keep working, get it out there as much as you can. So that's what I'm doing. But Reiki, you asked me this question earlier and I didn't really answer it very well, but I'm thinking, for me, Reiki is something that's had a huge impact on my life. So since 2009, when I became a Reiki Master, I've sensed myself changing very subtly, um, but now, I guess because my practice is well established and I really feel my confidence has grown a great deal. But Reiki kind of informs my life now. Does that make sense to you? Reiki has become so much a part of me that I don't want to say I am Reiki. I don't mean that at all, but I mean, it's so much a part of who I am that it affects my decisions. It affects how I view people. It affects how I treat people. It affects how I treat myself and how maybe forgiving I can be to myself and how gentle I can be or not be with myself. But Reiki's always there in the back of my mind, sort of guiding me. So, and that's happened over the years. That didn't happen instantly, but I was just thinking not too long ago, like, wow, yeah, you know.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think it works with what I like to think of as a subtle energy. So it's almost necessitates you being gentle in terms of presence, in terms of how you are. So yeah, that's amazing though, that the way it's sort of informed and
Yeah.
changed your life.
But I think it's that way for anyone who does this, and they do it with their whole heart, you know, and they really, really embrace it, and they take it very seriously, and it becomes part of their life, their mission. It becomes part of their mission in this life to teach people and help people. When you make that commitment to yourself and to the art, then you start to really, really embody it. And I think that's what I'm trying to say. It's become so much a part of who I am now. It's hard to separate, but I still do
Yeah,
have bad moods. I still do
yeah, I
yell at,
like sorry, go ahead.
I still do have bad moods and I still do yell at people, but you know, for the most
Yeah.
part, I try to.
Yes, we've established you're human, you're part alien, but
Yeah.
it's still.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I like the 5 Reiki principles. But yeah, just for today, I know when you talk of Reiki, there's so much more to it. There's the energy,
Yeah.
which is basically what it is, and that sort of intuition and your connection with the divine.
Mhm.
But in terms of the 5 Reiki principles, which are again something that's maybe more easily assimilated as a starting point by some people, just for today, and they're just awesome, and I like thinking of them or reading them. Just for today, I will not be angry. Just for today, I will not worry. Just for today, I will be grateful, which is huge. Just for today, I will work hard, and just for today, I'll be kind to others. But do you think of those principles, or
Yeah.
quite often? I imagine.
I do a lot actually, because I'm teaching them a lot, right? And so every time I teach them I've had so many Reiki 1 students. This COVID has really brought on people wanting to learn, you know, this. But yeah, I really, and I learn more and more all the time. But you know, like just for today, I will not be angry. Well, it's okay to be angry, but deal with it. Don't let it shape your day. Same with worry. Deal with it. I'm the kind of person, I worry about things, but I always fix, okay, I've got a plan A and a plan B if that happens. So I can't worry about it now. So, but I know if it happens, I'll do that. Working hard, that's just put your heart into what you do. Everyone has to earn money. They don't have to necessarily put their heart into their job, but they put their integrity into their job. But put your passion into what you truly love and what, you know, what you really want to be your mark in this world. Being grateful, it's obvious, right? Be thankful for what you have. Yeah, it's all, and being kind to others. Yeah, sometimes that's more of a challenge. There's a lot of idiots out there, you know.
Yeah.
You and I have had this conversation before. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, speak. I guess you mentioned how it's a good time. A lot of people have been getting into Reiki, so that's interesting. That I think the pandemic or yeah, the lockdowns, the pandemic, all of it has really helped a lot of people look at their life in a different way, and I think that's a very positive aspect of it. But it's cool to hear that so many people joined Reiki.
But I have to tell you something funny. This is so. I really think I'm a fairly humble person, and when I've had a lot of success, I'm so happy but I don't think I'm so great. You know what I mean? Like, you know that thing about when you're,
Yeah.
the more you learn, the more you bow, like, don't get
Yeah.
arrogant. So I had a student come to me last week, and she came all the way from north of Goderich, which is quite a hike. It's an hour and a half between our between Woodstock and there. And I always ask my students, how did you find me? You know, what brought you to me? And I've had a lot of people to say, well, I checked around. I mean, you said I checked around, but I really liked your site. And so I expected that answer from her. And you know what she said to me? She said, I contacted some teachers in my area, but none of them will teach during COVID. And she said, I kept casting them in, and I found you, and you were willing to teach me. I thought, well, okay, that's kind of put me in my place. You know? She didn't find me because I was so great. She found me because no one else would teach.
It
Which I
worked out
find
equally.
I find distressing, because people have been so, and we're not getting into this discussion about what's
Right,
going
right.
on.
That's a
Except
whole
to
different
say,
discussion.
yeah,
I might want to put this up online. Don't want it
yeah.
to be banned right away because of
But I
one
will,
word said at the
no, but
end.
I will say that people who aren't using their heads and they're letting this situation change them to that, so they won't even teach. They won't teach one-on-one. I mean, I have a whole lot of trouble with that.
Right.
You know, like, they're so freaked out. They're not thinking. Like, relax, you know,
It's a
be
culture of
sensible, follow the
fear.
proprotocols, but for God's sake, you
Yeah.
can teach one-on-one. I do. I won't take a class, but I'll teach one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's I guess it's that it's crazy to see that. I mean, there's just so much more fear built up. I mean,
Yeah.
consistently there's been fear for different things, you know. We've had the war on drugs, the war on terrorism,
Yeah.
the war on, you know,
And now we've got the
COVID
war on
now, like it's
truckers.
a virus. What's that?
The war on truckers we have right
The
now.
war on truckers, which is like, yeah, I can't get into that, but
No,
we'll
no.
talk more about that. But yeah, it's great
Yeah.
to see people stand up
Yeah.
and you know, sort of do it peacefully. And but
And
there's,
but you know, people, I have a great admiration for people who, there are restrictions and you have to respect them because you want to get along in your community. But there's ways to continue doing what you love to do. I love to teach, and I teach one-on-one, and we have an agreement. If someone's sick or if they've been exposed, we reschedule. If
yeah,
I'm not feeling well, I reschedule. You know, we're very respectful, but there's no reason why you can't continue to try, and you have to modify it, but why can't people just continue to do what they've been doing if there's a way to do it? That's my feeling. So thank you to all those Reiki teachers out there who aren't teaching right now. Thank you, thank you. Because I get to get their students, and I'm thrilled.
And yeah, I guess the other thing I'm kind of interested, even though there's just been build up of fear and in a lot of ways in society, there's a lot of spiritual teachers and leaders, and you know, we've discussed a few, say, focus on different, you know, you like say Greg Braden and people like that who,
Oh yeah, he's great.
yeah, so
I like him
you
a
know,
lot.
so they do speak of, say, a raising of collective frequency, and I see that in pockets, but it's hard to kind of wrap my head around how, you know, there is more fear, but there's also a greater amount of connection, and
Yeah,
you know, you've had more Reiki students, and there's more people turning to meditation and other,
yeah,
you know, yoga, whatever, and
yeah,
to get to closer to a more divine way of living.
yeah,
But how do you sort of reconcile the two, because it's almost like we're like moving in two separate directions, but we're
yeah,
part of one big whole. So
yeah. It's hard right now. Everything's just being shaken up on every single level in our world. The governments, the way of being, the way of thinking, everything's being shaken up geographically. You know, so many earthquakes and volcanoes going off. Like, this is a very scary time in many ways, because our foundations are being really shaken. You know.
I-
So some people turn to alcohol, some people turn to other things, some people turn to meditation and learning, and you know, to find some sort of solace, but to find comfort, and yeah, just
and are we going into the fifth dimension, as a lot of those YouTube videos keep telling us that
yeah, oh
we're
yeah,
all just
ascending,
ascending and going
yeah,
in? I like to
yeah,
believe that, but then everything with a pinch of salt, I imagine.
yeah. I don't know. You know, how do you define ascending? I mean, there's some people who actually think they're going to wake up one morning and they're going to be in a different world, you know.
Yeah.
I think to me, what ascending means is awakening within yourself and um, changing the way you think, changing the way how you respond to the world, changing what you see, changing how you interpret things, changing your awareness. I think that's ascending. Um, I think I've definitely ascended in the last 7 years since retiring, and I get to focus on the stuff all the time. I feel like I've become much more awake and aware. Maybe that's what ascending is. You know
Right.
what I
No,
mean?
that's awesome.
Uh,
No, that's true. It's got to be at an individual level
yeah,
to like that's the only thing we have that
yeah,
access to the divinest kingdom of heaven is within
yeah, yeah,
or what have you. But
yeah. So yeah, that's it's and I think right now a lot of people are using that kind of material as almost a crutch because they're so desperate to get out of our reality right now, and
right,
we're kind of in our reality. This is where
right.
your physical, your meat suit, as some people call it. This is where you,
Yeah.
you live.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
I guess,
Strange
yeah,
time.
that's a term I came across. I think spiritual bypassing, using, say, spiritual terms and concepts to not deal with everyday issues, which are
Yeah,
just as spiritual or just as important to our existence and growth. But it's
yeah,
like, no, I'll ascend. No, no, they don't get it. And, that can be, say, a slippery slope, obviously, but that's
yeah,
something that they watch out for. If it's like, hey, I do XYZ and now I'm better than everyone because I'm ascending, and
yeah. I
that's
know. See, there's that
it's
arrogance again, right?
right, right.
Yeah,
And, and yeah, I guess, gonna touch on that. I guess staying humble. You keep mentioning that all the best books and the best teachers I've come across, they keep trying to maintain that sort of grounded reality,
yeah.
that consciousness. And that's a big takeaway from you and from other teachers. And yeah, the more the better you get, the more humble you get. I like to think of
You
that, like
have
the
to.
better you get in terms of understanding yourself and all that. But yeah, in terms of, I had those last few questions, but there were a bunch of other random topics that I just wanted to see if you wanted to talk about, because I just wanted to know if you wanted to speak about them. But I guess we covered some of them, like, you want to talk about mainstream religions, meditation, breath work. We covered some of that, yoga, Tai Chi, Qigong, traditional Chinese medicine. We spoke a bit about that, naturopathy a bit, Ayurveda, shamans, we covered those, indigenous culture, psychedelics as a means to get a glimpse into a more, to get a connection to divine, say things like ayahuasca, DMT,
That's
yoga,
very
Sound
cool.
Healing.
My partner's tried a few of those things.
Yeah,
In his youth, especially, he was one of these people who hitchhiked across. Like, so we're of an age right now, right? So he was at Woodstock, but he actually hitchhiked across Canada with his long curly hair because he was a real hippie, with his guitar and a bag of seeds. And he went out to Vancouver, stayed in Salt Spring Island, was trying to learn guitar making, um, and ended up in California in Berkeley. And he became like he was a real hippie, he really was a hippie. So in those years, he tried a lot of things, you know. So yeah, I never have. I've never, I could, I suppose, but I've never really
right.
been drawn to it. I think I'm a little afraid to try anything like that. I've tried marijuana a bit, and it just makes me silly. I remember once being with a girlfriend, and we were having the best conversation. Oh, it was such a deep conversation. I couldn't remember from one sentence to the next what we were talking about, but I know it was a very deep conversation. So
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
it's
I
not
guess
it's
the
not
pros
my,
and cons, there are people who do like marijuana ceremonies, but I've known just as many people who have had problems with those, with the
yeah,
different plants, and myself included in the past. But it's, I guess, as long as you use them in the right way, they can be hugely beneficial, is what I gather. But yeah, just cool
yeah.
to.
I've always been too scared, frankly. I don't like to lose control. I don't like to
Well,
feel
then
it.
we gotta get you some and get you set up in a ceremony with the shaman just to see. I
Yeah,
mean, you've done a lot
yeah,
of work, so. But yeah, it's just some other things that if you wanted to talk about. In terms of diet, food, fasting, you have this nice crystal water, so we could talk about that. We spoke about music as a means of raising vibrational energy. things like ecstatic dance, or I like swirling dervishes, animals and their role in spirituality. So connecting with other life forms. I know that's a big part of your life.
Yeah.
And I love your dog.
Sorry?
I said, no, I said, I love, wait, Lexi?
Yeah, Lexi.
Lexi,
Yeah.
Lexi. That was
Yeah,
my,
my little dog. I don't know if you can hear her barking in the background right now.
yeah, as soon as I said it, I could hear her
Yeah,
barking. She heard
yeah.
us, eh? That's awesome.
Talk about food just for a sec though.
Sure, yeah.
We eat organically. We eat organic wherever possible. Brian's vegan. He has to be for health reasons. Um, I'll say I'm an omnivore. I try and eat as much of his food as I can, but I like meat. So I'd say at least 2 or 3 times a week I'm having fish or chicken, or I love steak. But we do try and live a fairly healthy lifestyle that way. Crystal water, I don't use. I use it for my Reiki students and clients. I have it down here, but I don't drink it upstairs. We drink reverse osmosis water, but I don't really. Brian goes around with a crystal in his glass all the time. Now he thinks it's the best thing in the world, but I can't. I don't know. I can't be bothered. I mean, I'm wearing crystals most of the time, right? I've got some sort of crystals on. Like now, I have black tourmaline earrings. See those little.
Cool. What do they do?
It's really good for protecting my energy field.
Okay, neat.
When I'm on the computer, black tourmaline is just a great way to kind of put a shield up around yourself.
Okay.
But
so when I look through politics, if I put some black like I'll maybe be more protected from stuff that I don't. Cool.
Yeah. So I think food's very important when you're on your journey to just look after your body. I like sugar. I like chocolate, but I like wine. You and I have had that discussion. I really like wine, but I find more and more that the I guess because since now that I really feel like I'm living my calling, if you want to say, I'm maybe more aware alcohol doesn't really appeal to me as much as it used to. And sometimes it doesn't agree with me at all. So I'm totally shifting, I think, totally shifting. And I think it's all part of the whole process of ascending, maybe, if you want to use that word, but just becoming more aware and awake and open and yeah.
Cool. I guess we covered psychology, and then there's a bit that I wrote down, chi and sex and tantra. That's a fun one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess we covered. Yeah.
I was very interested in that a very long time ago, tantra, and that. Not that I particularly explored it personally, but I was very interested in learning about it. But it never really clicked for me. I mean, it just wasn't something that really resonated with me personally, and it wasn't an area where I put much of my attention. I was too busy moving off into those areas that did really draw me. But yeah.
I guess sex and spirituality is always sort of seems to be tied in, like the similar sort of life.
It's like the ecstasy, right? The ecstasy that you experience, the orgasmic ecstasy that you experience. And some people will use sex, to connect to spirit.
Right. That's an interesting, I haven't explored that much. And
no.
I even read, that some people create, say, mantras, so similar to some of the Reiki symbols or Reiki mantras, but maybe not, but made by people for themselves on say smaller level, or maybe people who aren't as evolved or connected by it as the original Reiki masters and the Usui Reiki and all of that, but they act during an orgasm, or even when they're, say, doing exercising really strong, just in an intense moment, but especially at the point of the art, they try and focus their energy towards a mantra or a symbol and imbue it with a kind of psychic chi energy, which was fascinating. I just came across it. I know this is a few, but I do like, but yeah, I was wondering if you've come across that, or you said
not really. I mean, I've seen glimmers of it here and there, but nothing that I'm not that interested in it. So it never really, I didn't find out more because it just, things will come to you, and if it piques your interest, then you'll try and find out more. But if not, it just goes right on by, like, a thought you don't want, so.
Fair enough. All right, so now that we covered some, should we do another testimonial? Yeah, just for fun. I like the testimonials. Just let's see which one. Crystals. I met Carol in May of 2019 when I felt the call to learn Reiki. My time working with her has been nothing short of astounding. She creates a wonderful healing atmosphere, and her methods of training are very concise and organized. My journey has been long and tumultuous. Carol helped me find the much needed peace and serenity I've been looking for, and my life has changed in some profound ways while working with her. Between our Reiki work and hypnotherapy, I've learned more about myself in 1 year than I have in the past 40. Carol's guidance and teachings have given me the tools I need to refocus my life and my energy. Master your energy and you will master your life. Carol can help you with that. So that's just wanted to throw that in.
I love that. I love that little phrase. In fact,
master.
I used it. I asked him if I could use that on my hypnotherapy page, because I just loved it. I thought that was magic. This particular person, very sweet guy, he was just ready. He was just ready. When he came to me, he was just ready. It wasn't that I was that astounding. He was just ready to be taken to those places, and he got there himself. But I was just the facilitator, really.
It's cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a
But he was definitely
yeah.
definitely one of the ones that I feel I really worked. It worked. It was great. Yeah, it really worked.
Yeah, I've heard that phrase with Dolores Cannon as well. It's just like the earth is a life school and you're here to master energy. And that's one way to look at life and like our own emotions, but also perhaps, subtle energy and chi. But yeah, I guess that covers most things. I do have those last few questions that I like to ask. I've been asking people these questions for years, and it was just a fun thing to do. Strangers in bars, in university, but it's just, what are the happiest, very generic, what are the happiest moments in a normal day for you? So just, I think I'd put them down, but yeah, if you had to speak.
My happiest moments in my day.
Just Carol the person, not so much the healer.
Carol the person, when I get to go to bed at night with my book, that's my bliss, Yeah, I've got the dog curled up beside me because she's ready to go to bed too. And just sit there and I read for about an hour. I love that. I like getting up in the morning and taking her out for a walk, and we've got our little morning routines. My morning coffee, I love that. Those are happiness making things for me. Just so simple, right? Sort of like a bookend at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day, that they're always sort of the same thing because they're my little routines, but everything between those two could be anything, Who knows what the day will bring, but those two, the beginning and the end, those are my happiest moments. And my dog, I just love her. She's so cute. She's just,
Feel like she's around, we can say hi, but
no, she's upstairs. We're keeping her upstairs because she'd be poking at me and barking and wanting attention, and so she's upstairs with Daddy.
And Brian's awesome. I think I had mentioned, apart from his hippie days, he's also into yoga, and they'd done the Course of Miracles course, I guess. And but he definitely seemed to be on a very similar frequency to you, even though he doesn't do what you do. Which is awesome.
I know, but we're definitely going down the stream in the same rowboat, paddling at the same speed, I guess you could say. I'm pretty lucky.
I guess the other one we kind of covered, but this was just, I guess, because I'm used to asking this question for years to a lot of people. On any given day, what are your most persistent and or consistent thoughts? So most recently or in the past, so how they've changed. So we have mental dialogue, and I know we covered that some of it would be actually the 5 Reiki principles that we covered. And, of course, it's different for different people, but we all are pretty similar. But I was just wondering if you had to tell me what your most
starting at about one of them is usually I'm hungry. Starting to think about around 1 o'clock, what are we going to have for dinner? I love food, obviously. I don't know. I don't know. That's a really hard question to answer. My thoughts are often during the day, they're more mechanical in terms of like having to do certain functions throughout the day and focusing on what I've got to get done.
And that would be like, I guess, part, so it would be like making,
Like,
I guess you work with different students, so might be
yeah,
some.
but I'm thinking more in terms of just like around the house now, like we've got to go shopping today, or today's the day we've got to fix the washers on the leaking bathroom tap day. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
so functional, mechanical kinds of thoughts that go through my mind, because I still am that type A person when it comes to the household. It's very much me who's sort of, I don't want to say runs a household because I don't want to, you know, say anything, indicate that Brian isn't doing it, but I'm the one who's the organizer. So
Right.
I'm the one who sort of says, look, we better do this or we better do that. So I have those kinds of thoughts during the day. It's often like, what's for dinner? I'm hungry. It is, I'm honest,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
love food. Yeah, it's a really hard one to answer.
Yeah, yeah. I like watching people struggle with that one
Yeah.
too. So it's
Yeah.
just because it's tough. We go through so many thoughts, and there's nothing really
Yeah.
that's often that consistent. I mean, some people are really focused just on certain things. Some people straight up say just money, just their specific job, or just their son or daughter, if they're, especially if they're younger or something. But you know, it'd be a combination of everything. You already mentioned
Yeah.
that, you know, your family, like
I
Brian
think,
and Lexi and your family make you happy. So I
yeah.
imagine you think of them and stuff.
Yeah. I think one thing is that the one Reiki principle, just for today, I will not worry. I think I've kind of got that one down in a way. And it's not that I don't worry. I mean, because there's things going on right now that I'm pretty scared about and I'm pretty worried about. But I just know it's going to be okay. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got that now, I get it. And I think that's what I mean when I say Reiki has really informed my life, because now I just know that the universe is things may not have the outcome that I would choose, but I know everything's always going to be okay. I'm always going to be protected. Things will always work out in a way that I'll be okay. And that has become organic in the last while with me. So that's huge. That's huge. So that really shapes my thoughts.
Awesome,
So
that's really good to
it
hear.
really shapes my thoughts. So, instead of like worrying, oh my God, I just don't anymore. I give it a little thought and I think, no, I'm not going to think about that today, because by the time that thing comes, there will be resolve, or there will be something, so and I can't say that that's something I've trained myself to do. That's something that's just happened organically as the Reiki.
This wasn't type A Carol organizing her way to this kind of
certain things.
awareness.
Let me put it this way. I've learned that there are those things I have no control over. So just to let it be and what do they say? Let go and let God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's the idea. Yeah.
So ties into the serenity prayer, which is my favorite.
Yes, 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 yes.
There's only so much we can control, but we got to do our best.
Yeah.
And reincarnation kind of helped me to think a little bit like that, and to
Did
say,
you?
hey,
I
if
can't
we do
remember.
this.
You did some reincarnation work, right?
No, just
it's the
just
concept of it.
meditation classes and just a lot of reading and people I came across. Slowly it was like, no, this is real, and now it's a part of the way I look at life. And you kind of covered this with your last answer, but specifically just for if I do this regularly, and I hope to, with other healers as well. And this would be the third generic question for everyone. I'd like to ask if you had to give advice to the rest of humanity, and you have. This whole talk has sort of been me trying to probe for advice in different ways.
I have two words I would give to humanity.
Yeah.
Lighten up.
Okay.
Lighten up. Let it go. Lighten up. Oh my God.
That's good. I like that. That's a good way to understand.
I have
yeah.
here in my at the base of my computer monitor. I have a feather.
Oh, that's cool.
It's to remind me when I get intense, lighten up.
Because it's so late. Like, I get it. No, it's been awesome talking to you, Carol. You were awesome.
I've enjoyed it too.
I am practicing the Reiki I learned. I am also naturally, obviously, full disclosure, a student. I try to be very neutral and distant, but I'm clearly a fan of your work and what you do. So as an interviewer, I will work on that aspect, but it's been a real pleasure. I hope to continue this. I hope you can refer people who may be interested in having a chat after, preliminary chat or a few to see other sort of healers in the space. It helps me learn from people like you who and your journeys, and I'm sure it could potentially help others. And there are a couple of friends who may watch it. It might just be my mother and my two friends, but that's good enough. An old ex-girlfriend, she promised me she'd watch it, and then one other close friend and my mom. So,
Well, who knows when you start something? This is the thing. You have no idea where it'll go.
Right, right. And it's just a fun thing. And I'm just so happy that I had the chance to do this because I've been meaning to do something like this forever. And you took the time off. I know it was like you had a busy week.
Pleasure. So, It was a pleasure. It worked out well today because I said I had two clients that we had to reschedule, one because of sickness, one because of the weather. And I had you slotted in the middle anyway, but this way I've had a really quiet morning and now I can think about what we're going to have for dinner.
I knew that was coming up. I'm getting kind of hungry too. But yeah, I'm going to work on the name too. I'm going with, so yeah, if you think of a cool name,
something did pop into my mind when it was,
so far, sorry, while you're thinking,
it was something like
healing
with Shay. Healing with Shay. Healing, exploring healing with Shay. Or cool. Shay explores healing.
Yeah, I guess that's pretty much what it is. I was one of the I like acronyms. So I have this law, which is love, awareness, and will, which I might have mentioned. So everything
love, awareness, and
will. So like strength, willpower, determination. Yeah. That's will. Yeah. Awareness is like knowledge, understanding, information, and love is a central force. So I feel like everything comes from that one law for me in terms of any actions I do and work on. So there's another acronym for potentially a title, which is ease. Experience existence with appreciation and awareness of spirituality and strength with the masters. Ease with the masters.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still, this part might be edited. But yeah, I think I'm going to end on the dinner part and then you just cut the dinner.
The funny thing is when I was trying to find a name for my company, like Springbank Energy Healing, that's a cool I was name. Trying to think of all these wonderful esoteric names, and I suddenly began to think, what do you want? What do you want this name to achieve? Do you want everybody to come to you because of what you offer, or do you want people to sort of see you as this person who's a little airy fairy and maybe not come to you because that's all they see? So that's why I went with I live on Springbank Avenue, and I do energy healing and Springbank Energy Healing. So I opted for the more mundane but basic, everyday meat and potatoes kind of name. So I would attract more people, like people from all different levels of thought.
Good advice again. Yeah. I'm probably going to go with the more basic name instead of
that. Do that because, and then I think it just leaves you more open to work within that framework that you've created.
No, that's awesome. On that note, I shall do a namaste and a thank you and stop the recording. Thanks so much, Carol. Have an awesome one. I will bug you soon and send you random.
I hope to see you again. We always enjoy your visits, so hope to see you.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, for sure. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.